Welcome to AI Verdict. Today, we're taking a really deep look at Claude Co-work. We spent an entire week putting this thing through its paces to figure out, is it actually a useful AI partner? Or is it just another tool with a lot of hype? Well, the answer we found is surprisingly complicated.
So let's get one thing straight right away. This is not just another chatbot. Think about it like this. You give a command, and instead of just spitting text back at you, an AI assistant literally takes control of your computer, makes a detailed plan, and starts executing it right in front of you. That's the big promise here.
But of course, the big question is, does it actually work like the cool demos suggest? We're about to find out. We're going to go way past the marketing fluff and show you exactly what happened when we tried to use it for real-world tasks. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with some basic file management stuff, then we'll get into the major roadblocks we hit. After that, we'll explore some of its surprisingly powerful creative abilities, and finally, we're going to push it to its absolute limit with some heavy-duty data analysis before we give you our final verdict.
All right, first things first. Can it tackle the absolute digital chaos of a typical downloads folder? I mean, we all have one. We started with this super basic but totally universal problem, just to see if it could actually bring some order to the madness.
So we just pointed it at a horribly messy downloads folder and let it go. And honestly, the result was really impressive. It didn't just sort files randomly, it actually analyzed them, proposed a whole folder structure, and then it asked me for my preference, like, hey, do you want to sort this by project or by file type? It felt more like a real assistant than a script. It just worked.
Okay, so next we decided to up the ante a little bit. Instead of just sorting, we told it to rename a whole folder of random screenshots based on what was actually in the pictures. And it did it! It used image recognition to look inside each file, and it correctly identified one as an AI-generated news anchor's collage. Now, it wasn't perfect, it got stuck a couple of times and we had to tell it to continue, but wow, it saves so much tedious manual work.
And now for a reality check. Because not everything was that smooth, and it's really important to understand where the limits of a tool like this are. This is where we hit our first really big wall.
So, we've got this perfectly organized local folder, right? The obvious next step is to back it all up to the cloud. We gave it a super simple command. Upload these folders to my Google Drive. And that's where it all just fell apart. It completely failed.
And the reason why it failed is so important to understand. It wasn't some random bug in the AI. The problem was the web itself. Modern browsers have security features that literally stop the AI from being able to click the upload button on Google Drive. It really highlights this fundamental problem. The internet we use every day is built for people, not for autonomous AI agents. And those external app connectors, yeah, they turn out to be really flaky. But a failure isn't always the end of the story. In fact, what this tool can do with its own failures led us to one of the most powerful and unexpected things we discovered.
Yeah, that complete failure actually led us right to one of the tool's biggest strengths, its incredible ability to create polished, structured documents out of, well, raw, messy data and processes.
This was just mind-blowing. After it failed, we just asked it, hey, can you create a report explaining why that last task didn't work? And it did. It went back, reviewed our entire chat history, every command we gave it, every single error message it got, and it compiled everything into a perfectly formatted Google Doc explaining the whole situation. The ability for an AI to document its own process like that, that's a total game changer.
So we decided to push this content creation thing even further using its Notion connector. We pointed it to one specific Notion page that was full of research notes and just said, turn this into a PowerPoint. And sure enough, in about 10 minutes, it pulled out all the key info and built a genuinely solid slide deck. It just goes to show how powerful it can be when you give it a clear, structured source to work from.
So yeah, based on how easy the prompt was, the quality of the final deck, and the fact that it just did it all on its own once we told it to go, we gave this capability a very solid 8 out of 10.
Okay, now we get to the really fun part. We decided it was time to stop messing around and really push this tool to its absolute limits, with tasks that required some deep analyses and combining multiple skills at once.
First up, a multi-step media challenge. We told it to find a specific video of a tree with yellow leaves that was buried somewhere in our massive downloads folder. And its first instinct, which was pretty funny, was to go search for it on YouTube. Once we corrected it and pointed it to the right folder, it found the local file instantly. Then we said, okay, now turn that video into a GIF. It actually wrote and executed the code it needed using a package called ffmupeak and made the GIF perfectly. So this thing isn't just a file finder. It can actually manipulate files too.
So look, if you're at this point and you're thinking, okay, that's cool, but these are just fancy productivity hacks, well, our next test is where this tool really shows its true power, the kind of power that separates it from just being a fancy macro. This is where it gets really interesting.
This was the ultimate test for us. We gave it a folder that was just a jumbled mess of unstructured data, nothing but a bunch of screenshots of different AI model performance benchmarks, and we asked it to make sense of it all.
The result was absolutely astonishing. It scanned every single screenshot. It used image recognition to read the text and charts inside the pictures. It extracted all of that data, and then it built a beautiful multi-tab spreadsheet comparing the models from Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google. But it didn't even stop there. It created its own Strengths and Weaknesses Analysis tab, reasoning about the data that it had just pulled from pictures. This wasn't just data entry. This was true data synthesis.
And for our very last test, we fed it a folder with 5 of our recent video transcripts and told it to analyze them for common themes and then to give us strategic advice, specifically in the style of Mr. Beast. And you know what? It completely nailed the analysis and the tone. It produced a really useful document, but this also highlighted a key limitation.
So, after a full week of pushing, pulling, and trying to break this thing, what's the final verdict? Is Claude Co-work really a new way to work?
Okay, here's the bottom line. It is absolutely fantastic at mastering your local files, at creating complex content from your notes, and it's synthesizing unstructured data into real insights. Where does it struggle? It has a really hard time with browser automation and dealing with the live web.
And that brings us to the single biggest takeaway from our entire week of testing. For all of its incredible power, the AI can't go out and gather its own ingredients yet. For that final transcript analysis, I was still the one who had to go find the 5 files and put them in a folder for it. It can cook an amazing meal, but it can't go to the grocery store, not yet.
This gives us such a clear picture of where this technology is headed. The AI can do the complex analytical work that used to be only for humans. But for right now, we're still the ones who have to set the table for it. And that leaves us with one final and I think very important question. For how long?